betrayal, revenge, a brutal crime hidden beneath a veil of friendship. What started as a heartbreaking rejection turned into a nightmare no one saw coming. In this story, trust is shattered, and a horrifying plan unfolds, leading to an unspeakable act of violence. This is the story of Ethan and Amelia, where love and hatred collided with devastating consequences. In the bustling city of London, amidst the excitement of youth and the promise of bright futures, 17-year-old Amelia Carter was living her best life. A kind-hearted and popular girl, Amelia had recently started dating her classmate Daniel Rivers, and for the first time, she was experiencing the joys of young love. Her days were filled with fun, studies, and plans for the future. But what Amelia didn't know was that the person she trusted most was harboring dark thoughts. Her childhood friend Ethan Turner, a boy she had grown up with and considered a friend, had been watching from the shadows. Ethan had always been protective of Amelia, and as they grew older, his affection for her transformed into something far more friendship. To everyone around them, Ethan seemed like the loyal, doting friend, but deep down he was consumed by love. Ethan had always liked Amelia, but he never told her. He watched as she blossomed into a young woman, her friendship with him remaining platonic while his feelings for her grew more intense. Ethan always believed that Amelia felt the same way about him. When Amelia started dating Daniel, Ethan's jealousy quickly spiraled out of control. He convinced himself that Amelia didn't really love Daniel, that she was supposed to be with him instead. Ethan was convinced that Amelia would eventually leave Daniel and come to him. He believed their connection was undeniable, and even their families thought they were destined to be together. But when Amelia chose Daniel, Ethan's world crumbled. What started as heartache soon twisted into a dark obsession. One evening, Ethan asked Amelia to meet him at Regent's Park, a place they had visited together many times in their childhood. Amelia, unsuspecting of his true intentions, agreed to meet, thinking he just wanted to catch up and talk like old friends. Ethan confronted Amelia about her relationship with Daniel, telling her that she was making a mistake. He tried to convince her that Daniel wasn't right for her, that he had loved her for years, and that they were meant to be together. Amelia, shocked and uncomfortable, tried to gently let him down, explaining that she loved Daniel and that she only saw Ethan as a friend. But Ethan couldn't accept this. His jealousy had turned into rage, and hearing her speak so fondly of Daniel pushed him over the edge. After a small argument, Ethan and Amelia went their separate ways, Ethan upset, and Amelia feeling pathetic about how the conversation had unfolded. For days they ignored each other, trying to give themselves space. But what Amelia didn't know was that Ethan's hurt had festered into something far darker. Ethan couldn't shake the bitterness that had taken root inside him. Rejection gnawed at him, and the more he thought about it, the more he resented Amelia. Every memory of their time together felt like a lie, twisted by his anger. To him, Amelia had used him, pretending to be his friend, only to discard him like he was nothing. That was it. He had had enough. He despised the very sight of Amelia and was consumed by a burning desire to destroy her completely. Consumed by his growing rage, Ethan concocted a sinister plan. After a week, he messaged and called Amelia, his voice soft, apologetic, and told her he wanted to make things right. He wanted to apologize for everything. Amelia, unaware of his true intentions, felt a pang of guilt for how things had ended between them and agreed to meet him. Regent's Park was quiet that night. As Amelia approached, she saw Ethan waiting near the trees, his posture calm but something darker hiding behind his eyes. She pushed the unease aside and joined him, hoping for closure. They exchanged awkward words at first, but then a group of boys appeared, lurking nearby, their laughter unsettling. Amelia's heart quickened, a sliver of fear slipping into her chest. She looked at Ethan, confused. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan's eyes darkened. You need to understand what you did, Amelia. You used me, tossed me aside like I was nothing. You deserve to be taught a lesson. You tarnished my soul, and now I will tarnish yours." Before she could react, Ethan gave a subtle nod to the boys. They circled her like wolves. Panic seized Amelia, but it was too late. The air was filled with her desperate cries as Ethan and the others took turns assaulting her, their cruelty knowing no bounds. Her soul was crying for help, desperate for release from the darkness. When they were finished, Ethan stood over her broken body, his expression cold, devoid of any remorse. As he wrapped his hands around her neck, he whispered with chilling finality, "You deserve this, and you deserve hell. I hate you." With each word, his grip tightened, fueled by the hatred that had consumed him. Without a word, they dragged her lifeless form into the nearby woods, dumping her in a desolate spot where no one would find her, where her voice would be silenced forever. After committing such a horrific crime, Ethan and the boys returned to their daily routines as if nothing had happened. They were confident that the body, hidden deep in the forest, would never be found, and their secret would remain buried forever. When Amelia didn't return home that night, her parents grew worried and called the police. A missing persons report was filed, and the police quickly began searching for the young girl. Her friends, including Daniel and Ethan, were questioned, and search parties were organized. Ethan, pretending to be heartbroken, joined the efforts, comforting Amelia's distraught family and helping with the search. A few days later, the stillness of the forest was shattered when a garbage collector, making his usual rounds near the secluded edge of the park, noticed something unusual in the underbrush. At first, he thought it was just another discarded item, forgotten in the wilderness. But as he approached, the grim reality became clear. A body, lifeless and crumpled, hidden among the leaves. Panic surged through him as he fumbled for his phone, his hands trembling while he dialed the police. Within minutes, the area was swarming with officers, yellow tape cordoning off the scene. The crime scene unit moved swiftly, but a heavy sense of dread hung in the air. It was clear from the condition of the body that this wasn't just a tragic accident. Something much darker had taken place. The investigation had only just begun, but Amelia's name would soon become the latest headline in the city's growing list of unsolved horrors. Amelia's family, initially worried about her sudden absence, was devastated when they were called to identify her lifeless body. Shocked and heartbroken, they couldn't believe what had happened. Their grief quickly transformed into a barrage of questions as they turned to Ethan, the one person who had always been close to Amelia. "You weren't with her that night. What happened to her?" they asked, their voices trembling with sorrow and confusion, desperately seeking answers to a tragedy they couldn't understand. The investigation into Amelia's murder began swiftly, with detectives piecing together the horrifying details of the crime. Forensics scoured the forest where her body had been dumped, collecting every shred of evidence they could find. The crime scene was brutal. Amelia's body bore signs of a violent struggle. Bruises, cuts, and the unmistakable trauma suggested something more sinister than a random attack. The first breakthrough came when they discovered footprints leading away from where her body was found. Plaster casts were taken, and tire tracks nearby were photographed and analyzed. The initial thought was that a group was involved, but there were no immediate suspects. A forensic team meticulously bagged and tagged every piece of debris, searching for fibers, hairs, or anything that could point them toward the perpetrators. Amelia's phone was missing from the scene, but the investigators traced her last known movements by questioning her friends and combing through her social media accounts. It didn't take long for her final phone call to come to light, a conversation with Ethan. When the detectives brought Ethan in for questioning, he seemed devastated. He played the part of a grieving friend, talking about their friendship. He told the police they had met at Regent's Park, but that she had left him to clear her head. Ethan claimed to have no idea what had happened after that. There was an unsettling calm beneath his sorrow. Police had seen this before, someone too composed, too calculated. Despite Ethan's carefully constructed facade, he was not dismissed from the investigation. As the team dug deeper into Amelia's last days, they interviewed her friends. One of them mentioned a strange group of boys who had started hanging out with Ethan in the weeks leading up to the crime. This piqued the investigators' interest. They also tracked down security footage from nearby shops and streets around Regent's Park. After hours of reviewing grainy footage, a detective spotted something: Ethan walking into the park with Amelia. Not long after, the same group of boys entered, giggling as they followed behind. The next breakthrough came from Amelia's recovered phone records and chats retrieved online. She had received an apologetic text from Ethan asking her to meet him alone. This detail clashed with his story. Ethan had painted a picture of a casual meetup, but the premeditated message indicated something far more deliberate. Then, the DNA results came back. Traces of foreign DNA were found on Amelia's body, linking multiple individuals to the crime. But one stood out. Ethan's DNA was found under her fingernails, a sign of struggle. When confronted with this, Ethan's mask began to crack. Detective pressed harder, pointing out the inconsistencies in his story and the evidence stacking against him. Ethan's calm demeanor faltered, and he started to sweat under the pressure. The boys who were last seen with Ethan were also brought in for questioning. Under intense interrogation, one of them cracked, nervously claiming his innocence. He insisted that he had nothing to do with the crime, stating, "I was just there with them. I didn't know anything about what was going to happen." His confession set the investigation on a new course, unraveling the web of lies that Ethan had woven. He detailed how Ethan had orchestrated the entire plan, driven by revenge. With the boy's confession, combined with the DNA evidence, Ethan was finally arrested. The once grieving friend was now the accused, revealed as the mastermind behind Amelia's brutal death. As Ethan was led away in handcuffs, his cold, expressionless face betrayed no remorse, leaving the detectives with one lingering question: how could someone so close turn into such a monster? Ethan and other boys were charged with rape and murder. Amelia's parents sat through the heart-wrenching details of their daughter's final moments, while Daniel, devastated and traumatized, struggled to come to terms with the loss of his girlfriend. Amelia's future was taken away in a moment of brutal violence, and the community was left mourning a young life cut short. Amelia Carter trusted her childhood friend, Ethan Turner, never realizing the darkness that lurked behind his friendly facade. What should have been a story of lifelong friendship turned into one of betrayal, obsession, and murder. Amelia's story is a stark reminder that not all relationships are what they seem, and sometimes the people closest to us can hide the deepest dangers. In the end, jealousy and obsession took the life of a bright young girl, leaving a family shattered and broken. If you want to hear more gripping tales like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. If you'd like to support the channel further and help us create even more in-depth content, consider donating through the link in the description.